Well, welcome to another episode of Meet the Model. I'm here with someone new for me as far as shooting for the first time.
I'm Sindel Taylor. Nice to meet everyone. I think it's important to just be respectful to your photographer. If you don't know, ask. Say, hey, like, are you able to provide a hair and makeup artist? If not, make sure you're asking questions about your shoot. And then also ask the photographer, like, hey, what do I need? Or what do you need from me? I think that that's really important. Kindness goes a long way. I know we talked about this earlier, that, I always offer at the end of the photo shoot, if my photographer is leaving, I'll be like, hey, do you need help? I just think that's a respect thing. You offered to carry my bags in. Hey, I'll help you carry your bags out.
Good thing I did that then.
I'm not touching any of the camera equipment though, right. But I will carry the lights.
I think that's important too. I mean, you talked about, that willingness and that kindness kind of thing, but also communication, I think, is also critically important in that. So how should I come prepared? Do you want my hair to be a certain way? Are you looking for my makeup to be a certain way when I arrive? Or do I need to bring anything in that regards, because of the look that we're trying to accomplish? And again, wardrobe and, what are you bringing? What am I bringing? Is any wardrobe being provided at all? Those kind of conversations up front are important.
Absolutely. And I think you and I had a really great conversation. I mean, I know our shoot is more kind of just laissez-faire. Like, we're not really shooting anything specific. We're kind of, I always call it the menagerie. We're doing a lot of different things. So my wardrobe is a lot of different things, but I'd rather, like I mentioned to you, I was like, this looks really big. I promise. I know I brought too much wardrobe.
She brought a really big suitcase.
I did.
So you guys know.
I did. But you know what? To me, I'd rather be prepared, and I don't know what's going to look good in the space. So to have more than a couple options and to get that photographer's perspective, like you said, I had a couple ideas, but I was like, let me just pack a few extra things, because you might say, oh, that would look nice with this. And
I tease about the really big bag, because if you look at the quantity of gear that I have around this place and the size of my camera bag, you'd probably say the same thing in regards to me too. So it's not one-sided here.
Right. And so for you, what does it take to actually like prepare for a shoot? So know on the model side, like, so what is it? Like, I packed all my stuff like last night. So like, how long does it actually take you to like prep your equipment? How long does it take like after a shoot like this to actually make it into the model's hands? Like, what does that look like? I
would say not counting communication back and forth with the models, because that alone can be, a couple hours of back and forth, 5 minutes here and there, but it adds up, right? And there's, I like to over communicate, especially, if we're starting to plan a month out, then I'm checking base again in 2 weeks out. I'm checking base again and communicating again a week out, 2 days before, the day before.
Right.
Really
and I appreciate that as a model. So, because, I have a lot going on, and February is always my biggest month. I'm crazy busy. So that communication for me was helpful to say, hey, like, are you still coming tomorrow? And I'm like, oh yeah, right. I do have that photo shoot tomorrow.
I've had enough no-shows over the years to know that, even warning signs of, if I'm not getting communication back, it's a red flag to me of, oh, something might be going awry here, or if it just makes me uncomfortable as we get closer and closer, I'm not hearing anything back. I'm like, I may even cancel if I haven't worked with the person before, I'm not getting any communication at all. That's part of my preparation process, not only mentally, but also what gear I need to bring, So, knowing what we're shooting, indoor versus outdoor, flash or no flash, usually I'm using flash even outdoors. But literally it's, go through the whole equipment kit list first, memory cards, lenses, backup lenses, which camera am I using, because kind of a gearhead, the whole new video coming on that soon as being someone that likes gear. So I usually have at least 5 or 6 cameras going at any given time. Which ones am I bringing? Which ones am I packing? Which lens for which situations that we're going to be encountering? Do I need, wider lenses because of the vibe we're trying to go for? Am I going to be working at a distance a lot, so I need longer lenses? Memory cards, are we shooting videos? And then, again, all the video gear and lighting for that, and microphones and
so
lab
typically
mics.
On any given shoot, how long does it take you to go through that list, filter out things, and then be like, all right, this is what I need to bring?
It's probably at least an hour or two of prep.
Okay.
And then I would say it's probably another hour or two of just gear, gear loading, bag loading, double checking, battery charging, all that kind of stuff. And then again, just like this shoot alone, probably the volume of stuff is at least 4 or 5 trips to the car of lugging stuff into the car and loading up, and then getting here and unloading it, and then loading it back, and then unloading it again, right? So
Right.
yeah, I would say and that's not even, of course, on the post side of things. You asked, I think you mentioned that a little bit. So
Right.
obviously when we're done, then we're some photographers will actually provide the models with every photo and just do a photo dump. I don't know if you've experienced that.
I
where
have.
A photographer's like, you sort through them and then you look at all the junky and crappy photos that aren't good, you should have never seen, in my opinion. So I do all the initial, we call it culling, C-U-L-L-I-N-G, culling
Okay.
of those photos. I do that with all my shoots because.
So like you're not going to send me a picture of my eyes shut.
Right, exactly.
Right,
Or
or
the flash
or
didn't
my
go
funny
off, or
faces.
the camera was off. Or it was uneven, radically uneven, or I don't want you seeing my flaws, first of all, right? I don't want you seeing the bad work, but I also don't want you to have to waste that time to go through all those images when I should have done that work.
Okay.
Right? So
And see, as a model, I actually don't mind sorting through some of the photos, and I'll tell you a really funny story about that. So I did a photo shoot a few years ago where one of the images was super overexposed, according to the photographer, but it was my favorite image.
Really?
And it was the very first shot. And he was like, I hate that image. And I was like, but I love it. And I even put out that feeler, when I ended up posting it, I was like, listen, the photographer knows that this is overexposed, but I just loved the way that it looked. And it was my favorite photo of the entire
that's
set.
interesting.
Yeah.
I might have to rethink a couple things.
And so I said to the photographer, I said, would you mind, because I understand that concept. And, sometimes what you might think is a bad photo, maybe the model might love. But yeah, definitely the ones with my eyes closed, that's my biggest flaw.
And of course, everybody has different styles. So usually my approach then on the editing process is after I've called through those images and deleted the duplicates, especially if I'm working outside or just rapid firing, there might be 8 shots in a row that are relatively similar. But just for either sake of because you're in movement or because I'm afraid of your eyes being closed in one of the shots or whatever, or there's just a subtle little hand or finger placement or something like that makes one better than another. Trying to narrow that down, those kind of things. But usually then I'll provide, this is good because we're going to talk about this later anyway, so we might as well talk about it on camera. I'll provide a link for you to see the images that have made the first cut. So it's not uncommon on a photo shoot, maybe not today, but in most cases I'll usually shoot 12 to 1,400 photos in one 2-hour session. And then I shoot a lot, by the way. Some people shoot a lot less than that. And I'll narrow that down to probably 400 or 500 in the first pass. And then not only do I select images I like from the shoot, but then I also allow the models to pick from that as well. And those are the images then I'll edit, and then I provide
That's awesome.
a Dropbox
because,
or something like that.
some photographers, this is another thing for models to know, they only provide 2 or 3 edited images. So I think that that's important to have a communication with that photographer up front, what can I expect out of this? And if the photographer themselves is going to select 3 or 4 edits, I always suggest to the model, hey, communicate this with your photographer. Can you send me the ones that you like, and then you actually pick different ones so that you're not choosing the same ones.
Yeah.
And then you get more from both ends. The photographer gets, again, I don't know what the word I want to say is, but a look into what the model likes, and then the model gets a look into what the photographer likes as far as photo-wise. And I think that makes for a great arrangement of photos. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's something that you should be talking about. How many images can I expect?
Yep.
And
It's going to be different for every photographer, and it's going to be different based on who's paying who or what the scenario is and expectations there are. So it's good to, again, over communicate and just know, again, you don't want to come out of the shoot and be like, oh, I was expecting to get 100 images because that's what the last photographer gave to me, and I only got 4 from this photographer. Well, did you talk about that?
Right. And what I love it too is for us, we had a conversation about last minute. I asked Scott, I was like, hey, would you mind doing X, Y, Z? We're not going to talk about that yet. It's going to be a surprise. So
maybe I'll put it at the end of the video.
At the end of the video, you guys can see the
images
surprise.
there, right?
And I asked him, I said, would you mind? Because my intention at first was not to do that. And I was like, hey, would you mind doing this extra photo? We're gonna use that term for right now. And he's like, sure. And so I'm really excited about that because that was not intentionally planned, but it's going to work out really great, and I'm really looking forward to that. So we can spice the viewers.
Right, we're going to tease it out a little bit.
Tease it out a little bit. Tease it out a little bit.
So let's go back to the modeling work you have done, because I do want to make sure we get enough time to talk about your pageantry side of things
Right.
too. And then of course we got to shoot you up before we're kicked out of the space. So what kind of modeling stuff have you done over the years? What stuff do you particularly like shooting as far as like genres or types of content, studio versus on location versus outdoors, indoors, fashion versus other content? What do you like?
So I really liked